Hello everybody, welcome to Project Auto. Today I'm going to be showing you guys one of the best Chrysler 300 brake upgrades that you can not only do to improve your braking, but you can also do the whole thing on a budget. This is one of the best price packages I've ever found for any of the brake jobs that I personally have done. And I'm very impressed with the quality, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. The links to the kits will be in the description below, so keep an eye out for that. And we're pretty much just going to get started here. So skipping over the basic general steps is lifting the car. So you want to loosen the lug bolts, jack up the car, and then remove all the lug nuts. This will then allow you to remove the wheel and give you access to the brakes. As a side note, I will be only showing you guys the front brake pad and rotor replacement because the process is virtually identical for the rears. They're just a little bit smaller. If anything, it's a little bit easier. And the only difference as well would be the integrated parking brake, but if you have no need to repair that, then you won't be touching anything in regards to that. So the process, you'll see it'll be like loosening bolts. The orientation and the pattern is going to be pretty much the same, so there's not going to be a significant difference. Once you get these front ones done, it'll kind of come second nature to you. So once you have the wheel removed here, you can see the entire assembly. So we've got the calipers, the rotors, and the brake pads inside. The calipers, of course. And you can see here that with age and time, everything starts to get a little tarnished, a little rusty, and of course worn out over time. So we're going to be refreshing this with brand new pads and rotors, get a little meat out there, and basically help our braking distance, sensitivity, and whatnot. So first step here is to loosen the rear bolts that are attached to the caliper. So you can see here is the upper one, and you're simply going to do this with a ratchet, and this will be followed by an additional bolt that is on the bottom end of the caliper. So they are the same size bolts, and you'll basically be moving them to the left to loosen them. Then once you break them with the ratchet, you can kind of take it out the rest of the way by hand. Once you get that out, now we want to kind of separate the caliper from the housing. So you can take a flathead screwdriver and kind of pry it off here. Just making sure that it's not fully compressed, which it shouldn't be. Alright, so once that's loose, what we're going to do is we're going to take like a heavy kind of wire, and we're going to actually hang it on some of the suspension joints here, because what we don't want to do is just leave the caliper hanging, because this will put stress on the actual brake lines, and we don't want to cause any cracks or any damage to that, because then we're going to end up making more work for ourselves in the future. So we're just going to kind of hang it up here so that there is a little bit of flex. You can see the wire's not, or the line isn't stressed at all or anything. Now you can see what we're going to do next is remove the pads themselves. So you can kind of wedge the screwdriver in between the rotor and the pad and kind of wiggle them free. And you can see here that they've kind of gotten a little bit well worn out. These are many years old at this point, so you can see how bad compared to the new ones, how thin they are. So now we've got an additional bolt in the back, and this one's kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt, to say the least. But we're going to loosen that up to kind of give us access to the rest of the bracket. This is going to be an 18 millimeter socket that you're just kind of going to wedge in there. Sometimes it might be easier to actually put the socket itself on first and then attach the wrench, just because there's not too much space in the area. Of course, it's not the worst place to be working in, but you always kind of want to give yourself the most ease of use, and you're going to need some leverage as well, especially over time as these get rusted. They're a little bit harder to break, and so you kind of want to give yourself the best advantage you can while maintaining ease of access. So once you get that loose, then you can pull the entire kind of frame out, and we're gonna put that to the side. We're gonna be kind of doing a little bit of renewal with this as well. So there are some like little metal clips that we're actually gonna end up exchanging out, so you can take those apart with the flat head as well and put them to the side. This will leave just the bracket itself. Now there are some little safety clips here that you'll have to remove, and once again the flathead's doing a lot of work for this job. You just kind of got to wedge it pretty much underneath, and there should be either 2 or 3 of these, and they're basically just meant to hold the rotor down. Some different vehicles use kind of like a little key screw, but in this case you just got to pry them off, do a little bit of rotating, and a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. Then once you get that off, you can take a rubber mallet or kick it, but that's kind of ambitious, just to get it free. And then you can pull the rotor off and put it to the side, and you can see here there's a little bit of rust and whatnot. Here's comparing the old one. So they were actually Bosch. There's the OEM part number, and you can see here at this point this is well worn. I mean, I don't even know when was the last time we did the brakes on this car. In fact, if they're factory, it's been almost 15 years. So you can see the fronts here, they're double vented, and then of course they have screw holes drilled into them, so drilled and slotted as well on the face. And this is mostly just to help with cooling. Realistically, for a street car, not really necessary, but for the sake of design, it looks pretty cool, and that's kind of what we're going for. That little bit of track performance for most people won't be really a big of a deal. So now the existing parts that we're going to reuse, part of the caliper, what we're going to do is we're going to take some brake cleaner and we're going to clean these parts up. So first spray them down with brake cleaner, and then if you have a drill or just like a regular wire brush, just go to town kind of cleaning the parts up, because we're trying to not only spruce up the parts that are functional, I mean this is functional as well, but we're trying to give them kind of a refresh look as well, and hopefully improve their longevity. I mean, nobody likes the look of rusted or dirty stuff like that. So pretty much hit it a few times with brake cleaner brush, clean it up as best you can, and then what we're going to do is we're going to apply high heat paint. Now there is, if you wanted to go with red caliper paint, you could. I wanted to go with silver for this car. And so I got the high heat. I think at least 600 degrees is fine. This one's 2000 because I think you can coat headers and stuff with it. Realistically, it's a little extra, but it's not a big deal. I would just specifically wanted this color to kind of match the rest of the kit as you saw in the beginning of the video. So you're going to hit these with a couple coats, maybe 3-4 times. You want to avoid spraying any rubber parts because you don't want any damage to the rubber parts themselves, washers and stuff like that. Some of these parts won't have any rubber parts that you'll have to worry about. If you do have them, you can cover them up with tape or something. But rudimentary spray paint job here just to kind of give it a fresh look. So the caliper, since it's attached, I mean, if you really want to, you can remove it, but that's a lot of work. We're just going to clean it up while it's still attached here. Of course, you don't want to be breathing this stuff in. That kind of goes, that's a given. But pretty much same process. Brake cleaner, brush, and repeat. And make sure not to get any of the rubber parts. So now what we're going to do is we're kind of going to compress the piston here. And that'll end up giving us some extra room when we end up adding everything back together. So what we've got here is just a regular C-clamp, and we're going to tighten it down, and you can see that'll kind of compress and move backwards. And you can see the brake clean process here. Of course, we kind of went to town with this here, but if you want to cover stuff up, like because there's still sensors and whatnot, you go ahead and do that. You don't want to hit anything that's important. So next up is putting the rotor on. So pretty much the same way it came off, you're just going to put it on and line up all the holes, and then you're going to put back those safety kind of washers pretty much by sliding them up and around. Next, we're going to apply those little metal clips that we pried out with the screwdriver back to the bracket. So they pretty much just snap in. Kind of pay attention. Same way you took them out, also going to go the same way back in. I'm not sure if it's possible to fit the wrong ones on the wrong bracket, but pay attention to sizes. Obviously, if you buy the whole set, the rear ones, they're going to be like a little bit smaller, and the front ones are going to be a little bit larger. Alright, and then you're going to pretty much put that back on via the bolts in the back, and that's once again the inverse of the same way you took them out. And once you kind of get them tightened up from the back, then that'll kind of allow us to put everything back into place. So it'll kind of be like a guide that we're going to be using. Right, so then once that's in, you can kind of do like a little test fit, but next up the pads are going to go in, so make sure you've got them, of course, facing the right way. You want the rough part facing the inside, that is the rotor, and then the like little metal clipped part on the outside, and that'll be for both sides of the caliper itself. Then once that's on, you can put in the main housing of the caliper back on, and it'll basically slide over everything. It's a little, you got to shimmy it in there a little bit, but once you get it on, it'll work. Of course, don't forget to apply lubrication. Typically, some grease packets are included with these kits. What I'm using here is just one I picked up at like AutoZone. It's just called like anti-brake squeal or whatever. So just apply that to any parts, like that are moving, that are compressing, like the pistons and whatnot. Then you'll tighten those two bolts that we took off in the very first step, and you'll have the end product. So here is pretty much the end look of the refreshed brakes. So we painted the calipers, replaced the brake pads with ceramics. Those were available in this, included in this kit, and drilled and slotted rotors. So once you do that, you just got to throw the wheel back on, lower the car, and then make sure to follow the bedding procedure, which is usually, I think you go like 60 miles an hour, hard brake a few times, and then 30 miles an hour, and then soft brake a few times. But here's the final product. As usual, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Keep in mind the link will be in the description below. Once again, this is pretty much the best price I could find at the time for realistically almost any brake job. And so far I've been using it, and it's been fantastic. It also came with the brake fluid, so I ended up changing that as well. And overall, it was a really great kit, really great budget-wise, and aesthetically, it looks awesome. So please, guys, like the video if you enjoyed, and please subscribe for more videos on the Chrysler 300, Mopar, this, that. I've got lots in store, and I can't wait to show you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.